Welcome to Flower School Village Garden Club of La Jolla. And thank you so much for having me here for this small workshop demonstration info session about Flower School and our new book, Flower School, appropriately named. My name is CalvertCrary, and I'm the executive director of both Flower School New York and Flower School Los Angeles. For those of you guys who don't know us, we are one of the world's most preeminent floral design and floristry schools, and we have locations in New York and Los Angeles, as well as do satellite programs all over the country. If you are watching this program, that means that you love flowers at least as much as I do, and you might be interested in learning some very professional tips and skills on how to make your flower arrangements look more professional. There is a whole world out there in the flower design world. It's as if the flowers themselves are speaking to us, and we are not really creating them. We are merely trying to put them in the correct place. Now, our book here, I'm gonna stop my share and show you a little bit about what we do here. Okay, so our most recent book is called Flower School. This book comprises a lot of the floral design philosophy of the master florists and teachers and floristry craftspeople that we've had come to Flower School over the past 10 years. This book has, I'm going to just quickly talk about it, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about our experience, and then I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. This book has a lot of design skills, tips, and tricks for all beginning florists. For example, we have on our staff, Lewis Miller, we have Oscar Mora, we have a lot of design professionals such as Rob Morgan, Olivier Junui, Victoria Ahn. Our roster goes on and on of the best master florists in the industry. Now, what you're probably asking yourself is, what does it take to become a master florist? Well, I think that when we talk about flowers, it can be confusing at times because there's so many colors and so much beauty. It's really overwhelming. And what does it mean to be a master in the first place? Well, I think that we have so much experience in the industry, it is pretty safe to say that we know what mastery looks like. Being a florist is a craft. It's the same as being a chef. It's the same as being a shoe cobbler. It's the same as any other craft there is out there in the world. However, when you have mastered the craft to such a fine degree, it becomes an art. There are florists who are artists. There are bakers who are artists. There are shoemakers who are artists in their own right because of the mastery of their craft. And I think that at Flower School, we like to celebrate these masters in the best way that we can. I'm going to share a short slideshow with you guys so you get a good idea of what we are talking about. Here is what it's like to take a class at Flower School. Everything is very, very well portioned out. Everything is very well conditioned and very well organized. And in fact, if you know a lot about florists and floral design, you'll see that there are actually two very well-known florists taking this program. They're not teaching it because they're taking it from a master. And now if I just move ahead here, we're going to start with a little bit about the origins of Flower School. We're going to talk a little bit about designers and design concepts, and then we are going to be able to bring a design concept home. Okay, so this is what the stage looks like for a Flower School Master Floristry class. This designer's name is Victoria Ahn, and she's one of New York's top designers. As you can see, in addition to the small bites of food, which we know everybody needs, you have a really, really high-end presentation of what it's like to kind of be a florist and to pick from a color palette. As you can see, everything has already been determined. The design work has already been done. And really, it's now time for us to play with the flowers. And so as you can see over the left, that's what that looks like there. Okay, the first master florist I'd like to go in depth with is Remco van Vliet. Remco van Vliet is a master florist, a third generation florist who's Dutch, obviously, with a name like Remco van Vliet. You can't not be Dutch. But anyway, his grandfather started in the flower business. His father took it over, and now him and his brother Casper are both well-known florists in the New York area in their own right. Remco is one of his biggest commissions, and he has many, is to do the flowers at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So if you've ever been to New York and you see the grand flower arrangements in the Great Hall, there are 5. There are 4 alcoves and 1 center arrangement. Each flower arrangement is up to 17 feet high. And he has done them for the past 20 years, every day for the past 20 years. So to say, I think that in New York, there's not a person who knows more about flowers than Remco. Not only has he been doing it forever and on a very, very high level, but it's a generational thing because the workflow that's required in order to do flowers is early mornings. You have to be ready to go early morning. You have to be willing to do a lot of heavy lifting, and you have to be efficient. And you get efficiency from repetitively doing it over and over. And so for this particular class, and the reason why we say he has elevated it to artistry is because he is taking a very popular Dutch painting and he is reinterpreting that Dutch painting with flowers. And I think that painters and a lot of artists alike get a lot of inspiration from nature and of course flowers and the colors, because the diversity of color is so incredible. So if you said Starry Night by Van Gogh, you were correct. This is the work that he created, and the students got a chance to create with him. So it's not just a flower arrangement. He has elevated it to a work of art. And so therefore we consider him a Flower School New York, a master florist. The next designer I would like to highlight is another one of our own, Lewis Miller. Lewis Miller has become extremely popular now because he does something that he calls a flower flash, and he calls himself a flower bandit. And this comes from, I think, a very loving and spiritual place, where at the end of the night, after spending weeks preparing and executing some of New York's top weddings, he has to throw the flowers out at the end of the night because he doesn't know what to do with them. And I think that all florists kind of struggle with it, especially when their bond with flowers is so great that now they have to throw everything away, and it's really can be traumatic. And so he began taking the flowers and putting them and making giant trash can arrangements on the corners of New York City streets. So he would have one on the corner of 72nd and one on the corner of 14th and Broadway, and the trash can would be overflowing with flowers that he had used from an event. So he was using them for a second time. And people would stroll by and pick the flowers they like and stroll on and have that very special moment and connection. And I think that he was able to use his passion for flowers and share it with a huge number of people. And he has now become an international floral sensation because of these flowers. Now, I have to just, be clear. Lewis was always one of the most talented florists in New York. Unfortunately, and he's from California, and he will work in California. And if you do hire him, you can tell him that Cal told you to hire him, because he is a real talent, and he always has been. But his clients are very high end, and there's a lot of non-disclosures, and so he can't really show a lot of the work that he does. And this was his opportunity to do just that. Share his art and his passion. Now, one of the great things about Flower School, let me just show you the work that he created. One of the great things about Flower School that a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of these master florists, they do it as a job, and they have to go day in and day out. It's a lot of work and a lot of creativity. And oftentimes, and especially in Lewis's case, I mean, these are huge events he's done, he doesn't get a chance to work with flowers. He designs them, he comes up with the color palette, he comes up with the style and the likeness, but he's not doing the flowers. And this is a fun opportunity when the artist has an opportunity to work with an admirer or a fan or somebody who's just really interested in learning more about flowers. They can put the two together in something we call the Flower School Masterclass Series. We currently just finished a masterclass series in Los Angeles, and we had some amazing talent there, and we will have some more. So if you want an opportunity to work on this level with some really great designers, definitely take a look at our website. But that's not why we're here today. We're still here to talk about Flower School and a lot of the philosophies that go along with it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is stop the share. I'll field questions again in the future, I'm sure, but now let's get to the program and the class at hand. So the way that I broke up Flower School, and someone asked me, when they asked me to do the book, and I did the book, and they asked me, how long did it take? And I said 2 weeks, and people said 2 weeks, that's incredible. Most florists, it takes them an entire year to do a book, because they want to go through all the seasons and show everything. And for me, it's not about the seasons. I mean, I love the seasons. And it's not about the flower. I love the flowers. And it's not about the color, because I love the color. It's a combination of all of those things. And it doesn't have to be localized into one flower that I love. It's more of a design concept. Plus, I've been teaching flower classes here at Flower School for over 10 years, so I happen to know a thing about organizing a book and teaching flower classes. So I'm going to run you through a little bit of the thought pattern that a lot of florists use to kind of determine what the style and the character of your flower arrangements is going to be like. Some people are really, really attracted to flowers because of texture, and some people are really attracted to flowers because of color. And also the diversity of color. And some are attracted to flowers because they're delicate. Some are attracted to flowers because they're sturdy. There are lots of different reasons to love flowers. We're going to try to hit on a whole lot of those today, okay? So the first thing is when you're trying to get flowers, and this is really from the book, when you're trying to go pick out flowers and do a flower design, you first have to come up with a sense of purpose. What is it that you're doing and why? Are you making a gift for somebody because you want them to feel good about themselves? In that case, the flower arrangement has to last a long time because you want them to enjoy it as a gift. If it's for a party, the flowers need to be opened at the time of the party. So when you start getting materials together, you can think about that right away. The second thing that I tell designers to do is think about color, not about the flowers, because the color that you want might not be available in the flower that you want. But if a color it is that you seek, like pink, there are lots of pinks. They might not have the pink rose that you want, but there's other pinks. And there's 400 or 500 different flowers available that are pink at a time. So we pick the color, and then we find whatever flowers fit in. Now, we also in the book break up flowers into shapes, because not all flowers look good in every vase, and they're not all the same shape. And if you have arranged flowers before, I can give you an example like a dahlia or a sunflower. If you'll notice, they grow up on the stem and then they go out at an angle, which is nice. However, when you put them in a vase, they fall straight down. So there are certain techniques that you can use to kind of get your flowers to come back up. Another issue that people have a lot is that they forget about the flower. When you finally get the colors you want, then you're supposed to make the flower arrangement that makes your flowers look the best. And a lot of times people forget that flowers have different faces. What does that mean? Well, certain flowers like hydrangea, they look really, really great when they're nice and smooth because you see all the different flowers, and that's how they're meant to be. However, a flower like a tulip is different because it's on a long stem and then the flower's at the top. And so if you want to really show the best of the tulip, you want to see the stem. You don't want to shove it low into a flower arrangement. So you first buy the color you like, Then you find the flowers that are available, and then you learn certain tips and tricks to make the flowers that you have look as good as they can look. Okay? Now, when that comes to making the flowers look good, it's really always about the vase. If you are into flowers and you have vases, my challenge for you is to not just get the same shaped vase, because not all flowers look good in the same shape. So for example, the typical flower arrangement might be a 3-inch by 3-inch cylinder, which I love. However, tulips might not look good in that vase. It's more for roses or something like that. Or you might, the vase that people buy a lot of, or the V-shaped vase. And I'm going to pull up a picture here from the book. We have 2 vases here that are sort of V-shaped. They're both very tall with a wide opening, but the height lends itself to a certain style. So for example, if you have a V-shaped vase, it's really important that you have flowers that are tall, like tulips, lilies, delphinium, orchids, grasses, things that have that shape. Otherwise, it's sort of a waste. The flower arrangement that we're going to do today is going to look a little bit more like this. Okay. Now, this is a rose bowl. There's only certain types of flower arrangements that look good in rose bowls, and they're typically hand-tied bouquets of roses. Okay. Now, the one that you just saw there was a little bit more modern in the sense that it was smooth at the top. There's other examples in the book. Now, I'm going to show you that we can make the same flower arrangement with the same flowers, very modern and smooth, or we can make it a lot more contemporary and wild and garden-y. How do we do that? That's where the technique comes into hand. So when you go to the market, just to back up, you pick your color, then you pick your flowers, then you pick your style, modern, garden, etc. Then you execute, and then you learn those skills. And those are the skills that we teach at Flower School. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the second part of this program and show you a little bit about flower arranging. Okay, so what we have here are a bunch of standard roses, and I call them standard roses because they're available almost everywhere. This is very typical Trader Joe's spray rose, and it's a spray. The reason why you can tell it's a spray rose because the word spray means that it has multiple blooms per head. Okay, so that's a spray rose. And then we have a yellow spray rose. I happen to know that this rose is called a mambo, and I don't know what this one's called, but they all have their own names. So here we go. And then this rose over here is called a free spirit rose. So all of you guys in California probably know all about it. But anyway, it is a wonderful sort of orangey, reddish rose that is very popular this time of year because it's very autumnal and it looks like changing foliage. So first thing I'm going to do is take a look at my rose. Now, as much as I love roses like this is not its face. The thing that makes the rose look good is that you want to see the blooms, okay? And so I'm going to quickly mix my roses and spray roses together so that I can make a nice pavé, they call it, which is literally a nice straight flat construction of rose petals, because I think the rose petal is really where it's at. So I'm going to pull all of my flowers out. And typically, as a designer, this is how I work. Okay. Now, I am going to quickly put these together. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but the one thing that's important is I'm going to make all of the flowers pretty much the same height. Okay. So that's my goal. And like here. And without going too crazy with all of the technical stuff, if you've done this before, you know what I'm doing. If you haven't done this before, you can always go to Flower School and take a look. Okay. These. So I probably won't use them all because this is really for teaching and not necessarily as a gift. If I was doing a gift for somebody, I would finish everything all the way. Okay, but I'm not going to do that today. So if this flower is too low, we're not going to see it. So I'm just going to remove it. All right. here. Okay, so as we move, as you can see, the flower arrangement tends to be perfectly smooth. Now, here we go. This, in our design scheme of things, is a sort of contemporary, modern-esque styled flower arrangement. As you'll notice, all of the blooms are the same height. And when you see it, it looks like that. And it's just a beautiful pavé of rose petals. And I think that that's a very romantic way of presenting roses. Now, typically what I would do is tie this off and put it in my rose bowl. And you remember the rose bowl image, you can put them right in, and there it goes, and it's a nice table centerpiece, and it's quite modern looking. Okay, now I'm gonna, maybe I won't put it down, but my goal is to take this ordinary thing, and I'm going to make it a little bit more gardeny and wild. Now, what does that mean in gardening? Because I think a lot of people use the term garden design in flowers. And I think that you know this as well as I do, that all of the flowers come from a garden. And so garden design is not necessarily a thing, I don't feel. But I can take a few other pieces here. This here is called Celosia. And again, I bought the colors of yellow and red and orange because it goes with the yellow, reddish orange of my bouquet. And now I can maybe take a few flowers out. I'll take out a few of these yellow ones. It certainly has a lot of yellow in there. Okay, there we go. Maybe take out 1 or 2 of these orange ones just to make some room. And now I am going to put in a few of the Celosia. I don't really like a lot of foliage in my arrangement. And for those of you guys who know me, you know that in the flower business, we always remove the foliage. The reason why is because that's where the flower gets dehydrated from. It literally leaches moisture out of the stem. And so if you want your flowers to last a long time, it's very important to remove the foliage. So as I go through here, here's a nice yellow one. And remove these lower parts and remove this foliage. Okay. Now I can go here. So if you'll notice, our flower arrangement is very quickly becoming a little bit more wild. Okay, so here we go. Maybe work this one to the center. And voila. So now we have a bouquet. We can see the face, and as you can see, it's now becoming a little bit more wild, you know, and the shapes are starting to get different heights. Well, now we can take it another step further. And in my hand, I have the binding point, the lower, and what I can do is lower some of the blooms, okay, and maybe bring some up a little higher, okay. Okay, now I can maybe bring this one up, bring this one down, and it's really a mixture of some flowers being tall and some flowers being much shorter. And as you can see, it becomes even more gardeny, which I think is the word that people use for garden design. All right. So, bring one down nice and low. Maybe some more yellow. I see a nice spot over here with some yellow roses. A little bit. More Solidago. I like to try to bring my more expensive flowers to the top, just because I know that that's the thing that people come to see, not necessarily the foliage and stuff. So just a little tip is that you need foliage to kind of separate things out a little bit, but really people are not there for the foliage. They're certainly there for the flowers. Okay, so now adding some more. And maybe I will bring back in one or two more of these other flowers, like so. Okay, now, as we had said before, swirl around. Now we took our modern bouquet with the same materials, and then we just changed the heights, and all of a sudden now we have a really, really nice sort of garden style bouquet, and it's all because we changed the heights of the flowers. Okay, great. Now, one of our tenets in flowers that we're doing is that when we start designing things, and this makes more sense now that we're here, is we picked a color, we added a second color that was very close on the color wheel, and then we added another one, like a yellow and an orange, and as we add more and more colors, things become more and more wild. Okay, so oops, there we go. Okay, now I have these Celosia spikes over here. These are also very common flowers, or they are for us in the East. And now when I add a few of the Celosia spikes, then it becomes even more diverse and incredible. Now, if you take a look at these Celosia spikes, the reason why I got them is not necessarily because of the color, although the color obviously works, but if you'll notice, there are flowers all the way up. So if you remember back when we were talking before, when you buy flowers that are very tall, you want to make sure you're putting it in a tall bouquet. And this is a great example of where that works, because we have a rose here, another one here, another one here, and this will fit right in there, right in the middle, so that it's not making too much of a pointy point of view. And I say that, I don't really know exactly what to call it, but you've probably seen this before. When you have a stem sticking out of your flower arrangement like this, it sort of looks like Sputnik a little bit. It has this tall antenna coming out, which is something that we don't really want. What we want is everything to blend nicely together. Okay, so here we go. There's another one. And I'm just going to put a few more in here. And these spikes are Dutch, so they're perfectly done. Now I have a Solidago up here quite high, and I don't want it to be the only one, so I'm going to actually just put this guy right in here, as you can see. Okay, so now here we go. We have our flowers. Now I'm going to quickly put this down, and I'm going to tie it and cut it. So I grab my twine here. I can go around. This bouquet that we're calling here, this is what we would call in the flower business a hand-dyed bouquet, because I made it in my hand and I tied it in my hand. Now, it's a very traditional style. This is something that you would learn at flower school in your first couple of classes. It's a real classic. All right. There we go. So the idea is you want it to be nice and balanced. You want to be able to use your clipper so that you can clip your flowers at just the perfect heights. So if you notice, I do it a very specific way. All right. Okay, these are all special tips. And then usually if it's balanced, it should stay pretty well on its own. As stable as the flower arrangement is, unfortunately, the table is not. All right, so there we go. Good. So now the particular vase we might put this in, it might be this high. And now you can see the height of the whole thing. So just to recap a couple of things about the actual flower design class that I just showed you is that doing design work, you can make it an art when you really, really, really know it. And the way that you really know it is by knowing exactly what you're doing when you do it. You have mastered the craft. What I did to show you there was the difference between a very modern style bouquet of seasonal oranges, reds, yellows, and reds and yellows. And then as we added more elements to it, it became a little bit more gardeny, added more elements, more gardeny, and then we started changing the heights. So we have two levers we pull. One is more diversity of flowers, and then the second one is more diversity in height. And then that's where the style can actually come to life right in your hands. But make sure to always have the right vase and some nice materials. Okay. So now, if those of you guys who are watching this really enjoyed this, we'd love to see you at Flower School LA or right downtown. Or if you ever travel to New York, we'd love to see you. But there's an entire world of flowers out there, which we're keyed into. We have the unique position in the flower business where we're not a competitor of any florist, but actually an institution that helps florists. So wherever we go, we always have a really nice welcome. We do have a lot of travel programs where we go to Holland, France, England, Japan, Mexico, to go and experience other cultures through flowers. And it is quite a wonderful position that we have here at the school. So we'd love to see you at any one of our programs. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us on Instagram. We would love to share any of the knowledge that we have with you and help you to enjoy flowers as much as we do. So thank you very much.